season of migration. And if you look at the cartoons today, out of the 4 cartoons that we sampled, 2 of them, that's 50% of them, are talking about one thing, Irungu Kang'ata. So one cartoon on the Star has a caricature of, and if my director could help me with this, has a caricature of the Murang'a governor, caricatured as a wildebeest migrating from one side to the other. And he says, Kang'ata kicks off this season's political migration. This comes from the statement he made last week when the president was in his county, curiously so. He comes out and says, now I'm in UDA currently, but next year I won't be. It's the same story on the cartoon on the Daily Nation, which has Kang'ata in caricatured in a green shirt. I don't know green signifying which party. But he talks about what's happening in ODM, where there's a crack. The person who's supposed to be the SG insists he's still the SG, but he's talking a different language. And he says, unlike them, I am in, but really out. So let's start from there. It is a season of migration, but there's a lot of hesitation to actually cross the line. And this is across board. No one is coming out really to say, okay, fine, mimi nimeondoka, nimeinua mikono, I've gone to the other side. There are a lot of UDA rebel members who are no longer talking about UDA. There are people in ODM who are no longer believe in what ODM stands for after Raila's death, but they're still in ODM. Is this the season where we see the typical Kenyan politician who's totally disingenuous about where they stand?
Well, it goes back to whether or not, in fact, Kenya has political parties. And in theory, you have political parties. They're required to have an ideology. They're supposed to have a certain number of offices across the nation. You know, the political parties liaison committee has got up about 92 members. So in theory, you have 92 proactive political parties. But as we've said times above number, in fact, Kenya, we don't have political parties. We have special purpose vehicles created by politicians with political capital and financial resources. So if you've got financial resources and you've got political capital, you can get a party registered today, or you can go to the market. There are people right now in the marketplace who are selling political parties that you can go buy and customize. That is why when you say that there are people within ODM who are lost because Mr. Raila Odinga is not around, it's a statement of fact, because they were not loyal to ODM. They were loyal to Mr. Raila Odinga. And you can go back to Kanu. People were in Kanu then because of President Moi. People joined PNU because of President Kibaki. People joined Jubilee because of President Kenyatta. If really we had very strong political parties, we'd be having the case of the UK. You know, you have your Labour, Conservatives, or the US, the Republicans and Democrats, where parties would stay because of particular ideals. If you go through all the political parties' manifestos, it's probably the same thing. And there's a record which says, in fact, the first manifesto in Kenya was crafted by Professor Anyang' Nyong'o and company. So what did these other political parties do? They just get the soft copy and they change a few things. So like, for instance, if you look at all the political parties, they don't have so unique positions about maybe coffee or tea or abortion, you know, pro-life, all these kind of things. The same thing, apart from Kenya Kwanza, which last year they went through all the counties and they got information. So it would be interesting to see professors' political party, whether it's any different, whether they've got a manifesto, whether they've got an ideology that can take Kenya to the next level. Now, when you're talking about Irungu Kang'ata, in my view, he's a very prudent politician, and he's somebody who is in touch with the reality. You remember during the last administration, he had a leadership role at the Senate, but when he got in touch with his people, when he looked at the crystal ball, he said, hapa hivi kuna vile ground imechange, I must align or realign, I must recalibrate. And when he spoke to his party boss, I think the party boss, Raul Liza, he told him, young man, we know what we are doing, but see what happened. So if our President Ruto today, I would call Mr. Irungu Kang'ata, I would call Dr. Irungu Kang'ata and have a conversation with him and seek to understand where has he taken this move. And unlike other political leaders who change positions without making it public, I think it's an act of bravery for Dr. Irungu Kang'ata in a public forum to state that I'm going to be in UDA till elections, but at that stage, I'm going to review my options. And I wish anybody who is running for political office or anybody who is holding political office today would actually do that, so that we know where people stand.
Okay.
And then we know that these people are driving their selfish interests. But again, you cannot discuss Irungu Kang'ata without discussing Mr. Rigathi Gachagua. From people who understand Mount Kenyan politics, who've been following events with a lot of detail, they're really getting nauseated and intimidated by his brand of politics. He's introduced a brand of politics, and he may end up being worse than Mr. Raila Odinga. That if you do not kiss his ring, then he refers to you as a traitor. I mean, if you come from the Mulima part of Kenya, are you not allowed to hold your opinion? Why would you holding an opinion divergent from Mr. Rigathi Gachagua be branded as a traitor?
And I can see that line of thought, but I don't want us to go there. I just talking about the shifts that we're experiencing now, the hesitation to actually just declare. I know the requirement even for state officers is that 6 months before the election, you have to vacate your position so that you can declare political interests. But they are politicians, and this has continued over a while. Even those who formed the party UDA, many of them were still members of Jubilee and were still state officers, some of them. This may be considered bad manners in some areas, but it would appear we've normalized the same, that there's a lot of hesitation and a lot of disingenuity in a lot of politicians.
You know, let's appreciate that Kenyan pluralism of politics and multi-party process is still taking root. And then, unfortunately, the political parties tended to be more tribal-based, regional-based, and around election convenience, formation of coalitions which keep changing, and that technically has not allowed strong institution of political parties to stand the test of time and sustain itself for the longest. Maybe ODM has tried to survive for over 20 years, but you see, that is still linked to the leader. In the absence of the leader, we can see what is happening. The center cannot hold. But I think fundamentally speaking, a strong democracy